Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Back Lot Banter, your favorite box office recap show on the entire internet. I'm your host, Tanner Dykstra.
Is the internet shaped like that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's more of a globe, maybe a sphere.
Sure.
I
Yeah, that's fair.
I could have constructed it in 3D,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I chose not to. I'm Tanner Dykstra. I'm joined here by my fellow box office enthusiast slash expert.
Thank you.
Slash ballyhooer.
Yeah,
Tucker
that's me.
Hazel.
How's it going?
And Tucker, of course. What else are we here to do but talk?
About March. Oh, do
The-
the
yeah.
box office ballot.
The box office
okay,
ballot.
all right,
You
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
It's okay. It's a new show. We'll still getting the reins on it. No, of course,
I thought because you called me a ballyhooer that the ballyhoo bit was already over.
I get it. I
All right.
misstepped there a little
Yeah.
bit. But that's okay. We are, of course, talking about the month of March 2024. That's
Yeah.
right.
Year of our Lord Paul Atreides.
That's true. That is very true. Year of our Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lizard and a big monkey and a couple bears and then some
couple-
ghosts,
quite a few bears.
here and there. But Tucker, let's get into it. But before we do, subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment down below on your thoughts on the box office month that was March of 2024.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll have another prompt for you. So just stay tuned through the rest of the video. Listen
right.
close, dear viewer. Listen close.
Listen up and quiet down.
Listen up and quiet down. Listen up and quiet down because let's go over the top 10 domestic openings of March.
Tanner?
Yeah?
This was a real month.
Finally,
Frankly, it was a first real month in quite a while.
Yeah,
I mean, not only the first 2 months of the year, which were notoriously quiet, but like there was even some weird stuff in like November. Like 'cause
of
November was really quiet. October was really quiet.
That's
like,
right.
Things are just happening now.
Things are happening now. Things are up and happening. And the big thing that happened, which I'm sure you are all aware of, is a little film called Dune Part 2,
Yeah.
which is in fact not a little film, opened to $82.5 million at the beginning of the month.
To be noted, though,
Yeah.
it is not the biggest global opening of not only this year, but not this month, because Godzilla X Kong New Empire actually opened bigger worldwide than Dune Part 2 did, which is sad.
We'll get to that.
Which is depressing.
We'll get to Godzilla Con because, of course, that is our number 2 domestic opening of the month with just over 80.
Very close. I mean, these are two massive openings.
Closer than many people were expecting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then we have Kung Fu Panda 4.
Closer than most were hoping.
Yeah.
That's just
Wait,
sad.
hang on. I should be. Well, we'll do that on the next slide. Kung Fu Panda 4 opened to 57.9. Ghostbusters at just above 45, and then take a steep dive off the cliff here. To Imaginary at
Something not in a
9.9.
franchise.
True, exactly. Imaginary, and then rounding out the rest of the top 10 is Arthur the King, Angel Studios' Cabrini, the Sydney Sweeney horror film Immaculate, Late Night with the Devil, which is a David Desmalchian sort of throwback horror movie, and then an Indian film, Tilu Square.
If you ever want to watch David Dalsmalchian, throw it back.
Hey,
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen.
They did it with AI, though. They made him throw back with AI.
Yeah. That's what I was really for. That is one good use.
I'd say that's the immoral use of it.
So, we messed up. We thought Arthur the King was going to be bigger than
That's true.
ended
It was
up
close.
turning
It
out.
was close, actually.
For Arthur the King versus Imaginary?
Yeah, I'll get the numbers here, but we weren't so far off.
Sure.
But ultimately, people are going out for Blumhouse horror movie more than
Yeah.
this particular version of a dog star movie.
Yeah, now I just want to quickly check. Okay, no, yeah, Imaginary is just bigger than Arthur the King. I mean, frankly, I heard more people talk about Arthur the King.
Really?
Well, I mean, because
That's a fair point.
people in our circles were talking about it a lot more, and also we live in the Midwest with a lot of old people, and so Arthur the King is much more.
Arthur the King was about $2 million off of the opening of Imaginary.
All right, so we weren't like making a crazy, ridiculous prediction. We were just look, Mark Wahlberg's gonna be more popular than a dumb fucking bear.
Yeah.
We were wrong.
We were wrong about that.
And so we'll keep that in mind in future months when a Mark Wahlberg and bear movie releases.
Our head to head. That's a good point. But yeah, Tucker, I wanted to shout out.
So we tied because we had the exact same top 5.
But I had my numbers here. If you just allow me to pull them up here real quick. So Dune, I said 84.
I'm gonna give you a thumbs up or thumbs down if you did good or not.
Okay. Dune, I said 84.
That's a thumbs up.
Thank you very much. Then I had Godzilla X Kong at number 2 at 50.
That's a thumbs
Again,
down.
another big undervaluing of that film.
That's a thumbs down.
Kung Fu Panda, I said 42.
Still thumbs down.
Yeah.
I think it's over 10 million away.
Yeah.
That's a gaff. That's a jaff.
And then I said Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 35.
I'll give that a thumbs middle.
Okay, I'm on that 10 million line. I was sort of preying on the downfall of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a little bit. And then, of course, I said Arthur the King would open to 15. It opened to about half of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Imaginary didn't even reach that.
No.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think that obviously you had some accuracy with Dune, but
it was also the closest one to when we recorded.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But what the great thing about these movies, almost all of them overperforming, except for Arthur the King, versus your predictions, is that it just shows that we've been really like taught over the last few months, like no one cares, no one wants to go to these movies.
People were going,
and they do. People want to go to these movies.
People were going.
Multiple, 4 movies made over $100 million this month.
Yeah,
globally.
Yeah. Well,
that's crazy.
I was making these slides and I was looking through. I was like, that's a lot of big numbers. More big numbers than I'm often used to.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Let's first look at what people thought of these.
Yeah.
We got
this is a nice spread. This is a clean wash across the board.
Our Cinema Score and Rotten Tomatoes critic score comparisons here. So up at the top, you have a couple films that were very well received by audiences, Cinema Score wise. That was Dune Part 2 and Arthur the King.
Frankly, I will say, I'm a little surprised Dune Part 2 doesn't have an A+.
I would say that too.
That is as you can see for Rotten Tomatoes, like almost perfect Rotten Tomatoes score. A is great. Yeah, like I'm not complaining, but like if anything, get an A+. Why isn't it Dune Part 2?
You'd probably think it would be Dune Part 2. Kung Fu Panda an A-. Ghostbusters, Godzilla Kong at a B+ there. Just, fairly well received.
And then horror movies at the bottom.
Horror movies are always going to be towards the bottom here.
Yeah. And the biggest disconnect.
Disheartened to see that Imaginary did get a better score than Immaculate.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
But the biggest disparity here is Immaculate.
Yeah.
C, Cinema Score, but great Rotten Tomatoes.
Beloved by critics, not so much the case with Imaginary.
Though also, unfortunately, Immaculate also had a lower Rotten Tomatoes score than Kung Fu Panda 4, which is just not.
Yeah.
That's just
they're all the same. Those are all the same right there.
They're all the exact same.
Yeah, I think so. I think, or at least Immaculate and Kung Fu Panda, I think are both at like a 70. Sure. I want to say.
Okay.
They're right on the line there. And same with Dune Part 2 and Love Lies Bleeding, both at a 93.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm good month overall. It skews towards the positive, and obviously that is reflected in the box office numbers, which a lot of things are making good money, especially for their budgets. Because this month, actually, I want to give a major props to studios. Nothing had an insane budget this month.
True.
Everything was properly budgeted for the appetite for the audiences. Godzilla x Kong is actually way cheaper than Godzilla vs. Kong. Kung Fu Panda 4 was like half the budget of some of the other movies.
Ghostbusters cost a little bit more than Afterlife. We'll get to that. And,
but also that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But also, Tucker, there's some stuff I have in store on a slide for you here. That was I was doing some research and I came across a very interesting article that I want to talk about when we get to it. But let's talk about Dune Part 2 first. The big one of the month.
Denis, thank you.
Denis, thank you so much for delivering the first real movie of the month.
Absolutely. First movie of the year, Tanner.
Of the year, yes. Thank you. With a total gross so far of $632 million, that will continue to rise. This film is...
I mean, we'll see. It was added to streaming this past week.
Was it actually? Or I thought that was false reporting.
Oh, okay. Maybe I was...
No, I think that was...
I'm hearing that from some sources, but...
Yeah. I think people were speculating, but I don't think that ended up happening.
Well, I wouldn't put it past Warner Brothers.
Yeah, 4 days ago, Dune Part 2 digital release, still TBA.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, Warner Brothers, for doubting you. But also, I'm not sorry.
No,
that sounds like something
you're
do.
well within your rights to doubt that.
But okay, so I scratch everything I said.
Yep.
Also, I just want to note that I started putting the studios up at the top. Just if you're curious.
Yes.
This is from Legendary and Warner Brothers, and so you'll see that at the top of every one of the other slides as well.
It's really good.
Oh,
as I said, that'll continue to rise. It's holding very well. It only dropped 44% in week 2, which is kind of unheard of for a blockbuster of this size.
Opening to over $80 million.
Exactly. That was huge. Beloved across the board, 8.9. I believe for a time, it was the highest rated film on IMDb that has fallen at this point. But yeah, it was... I mean, it was popping off all sorts of records here. One that I found very interesting is this one here. Timothy Chalamet, that is, if you're familiar, became the first actor since John Travolta to be the lead in the top 2 domestic grossing films released within an 8-month period. You want to take a stab at which 2 films John Travolta was in? This is the height.
I'm just gonna say the 2 most famous John Travolta movies.
I think it'd probably be good.
Which would be Grease and Pulp Fiction.
No. Grease and something else in the 70s.
Wait, you're right. Pulp Fiction probably newer than that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, holy! I forget about that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. No one talks about that movie.
True. That's fair.
That is a forgotten top grossing movie.
It is. But yeah,
Did you know that Sylvester Stallone directed the sequel to that?
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Timothée Chalamet has broken a record that's been standing since the late 70s.
That's nuts.
With Dune Part 2.
And I think that this is just... I mean, obviously, it's big news all around for this movie, but this is really the Timmy show.
Yeah, absolutely.
In 2024, because Wonka was still in the top 10.
Absolutely.
At the time that Dune Part 2 came out. And
of
so
course.
he had multiple movies in the top 10. And that's happened occasionally, but... he's the one putting butts in seats, and obviously there's a little bit of like IP isn't really him, but regardless, he is now at least way more of a draw than he was 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And so, that's just good.
And at this point, Warner Brothers and other studios, particularly Warner Brothers, as we'll get to in the headlines here, are going to be positioning him as a movie star, which in turn will make people view him as a movie star. It's sort of like a cycle. Do we know what
his next... Oh, he has the Bob Dylan biopic. Is that his next like big movie?
Yes, I don't know. I've been looking at his IMDb page recently. I don't know if he has any other projects announced outside of that.
Well, we know that he did sign a contract with Warner Brothers, so I'm sure plenty is coming.
Yeah, plenty is coming, but the only project he has filming in production right now is a complete unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic there.
Yeah, and that will be the real test of his power.
Course. And of course, going back to Dune Part 2, this film surpassed the total gross of the first film within 10 days of its release.
Yeah, I mean, people were like, this is going to be bigger, but this is, I mean, by the time it ends, it'll probably be double.
Yeah, honestly.
Which is really good because this movie was great. Mm-hmm. It's going to be absolutely demolishing the award season in a couple of months. This is the kind of thing that's going to stick around. And apparently Dune Messiah is in production.
Yes.
Right now, there's like some things like, is he really want to do it now?
Yeah. Because clearly the studios are going to want him to strike while the iron's hot here. I would contend that it's good to give it like a 5-year break, really like whet the appetite here. And also, I think a time jump would be sort of interesting to do in universe.
That's fair enough, yeah.
But I digress. I'm not a Warner Brothers or a Legendary executive as much as I would like to be.
Would you need to do a time jump in order to have Anya Taylor-Joy in the movie, like acting?
Yeah, probably. Just, say she aged fast or whatever.
Yeah. I wonder what is the minimum amount of years that could be realistic, even through the horseshit sci-fi logic?
Get James Cameron on board. He'll do like a Sigourney Weaver situation.
I like it.
Okay.
But Dune Part 2, story of the month, just good around. Honestly, the funny thing about this is, even though this is massive, there's not much to talk about it because it's just big. People liked it, and it continues to make money.
It's really good.
Next, other maybe slightly more interesting stories. Kung Fu Panda 4, bringing back animated films to the theater. It's the first new animated film in months, and it's the only animated film for like 2 months as of the time of its release. So good job for DreamWorks putting out a movie that we don't think was very good, but cost a little bit less and is making a lot of money for its budget.
And is, finding a market that is being very underserved in the cinematic landscape right now. Those being, family films, children's films, whatever. And talk about one thing, I think this is a good moment to shout this out. One thing that you added here for this month's slideshow, and will be going in the slideshows going forward, is the domestic tracking versus what actually happened that opening weekend. That's just above the tomato meter you see there.
That's a little colored box.
Yes. So this film was tracking to be 45 to 50, and then as we were saying, because these family markets were being starved a little bit, opened above those trackings.
Well above. Yeah. I mean, 7 million above 50 million is a significant bump because this is a range, and so they're like, look, if it does well that we're predicting, it's going to hit 50 million, and then just blew past that.
Exactly.
So yeah, good on DreamWorks. I'm a little bit disappointed in this movie just in general, not in terms of its bringing people back to theaters, which I respect, but this is not only a much cheaper and I felt lower quality film than what DreamWorks has been putting out recently. They've been doing actually really well. Universal's been doing really well with their theatrical output of animated films.
Absolutely.
And this is obviously doing well money-wise, but quality-wise, I think this is lower. But also, this is the last movie, or no, actually, no, The Wild Robot is the last movie that they're developing solely in-house. Every film past 2024 will be made using outside studios. Not primarily, I think they'll obviously still have some, but they're just trying to find ways to cut corners. And I think that's really unfortunate because DreamWorks does a great job at making movies. They have so many new IP. They just announced like Bad Guys is getting a sequel.
Yes, that's right.
And they're bringing back How to Train Your Dragon live action. But like they do a great job with these things. And I don't know what would spur on Universal to be like, look, you've been doing a great job for like 20 years. Like you won the first animated feature Oscar. Let's just like not have you make movies in house as much anymore.
It's crazy to me. And also, this is how I learned that DreamWorks has been like shopped around and bought out by a lot of other major studios. They were bought out by Universal in 2016. And
I think it was Fox before that.
Yeah, I think so. And then they were sort of this studio started under the purview of Steven Spielberg back in like the early 90s. And yeah, it's just kind of sad to see what's happened to them. Of course, we'll see how their output is sort of impacted as well. But I have to imagine there's a lot of people working for DreamWorks, particularly DreamWorks Animation, that are going to be sort of displaced by this. So it's not great.
It's really messed up, and especially because this is a success.
It is. It's the biggest DreamWorks animation opening since 2012.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Wait, how big did 3 open? Because 3 has grossed a lot more by the end of it.
3 opened smaller.
Okay, well,
a little bit smaller, but still. This is their biggest opening since Madagascar 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the top 10 highest grossing movies of, I guess, 2012.
Yes, 2012.
So, yeah, the domestic opening for Kung Fu Panda 3 was $41 million. Oh, wow, this is way bigger.
I think, it's way bigger. I think because, for whatever reason, Kung Fu Panda 3 opened in January.
Sure.
They put that film out in January.
It's not really blockbusters that open big there.
No, so. It's just if Kung Fu Panda 3 released in March, I would have lived up to the totals of the other films.
Sure.
And I guess we don't. Off the top of my head, I couldn't really tell you what was going on in early 2016.
No.
But anyway, Tucker, as you said, this will be one of the final films with The Wild Robot as well that'll be produced in house with DreamWorks, and this film was much hyped. This is one where you can tie the box office results to the trailer views. Of course, it won't earn more than Super Mario Bros. Or Sing 2 or Minions, but hey, people were hungry for this kind of thing. And I think the break also helped. It's been for 8 years since the last Kung Fu Panda movie.
Yes. And in my opinion, you can kind of feel that. I agree. Like a cash grab, but people are liking it, and it's making money, and I can't disparage it too much for that.
Of course, and we might be getting more of these.
Really?
I think so. Jack Black has said, he's open to more, but why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, of course. I bet he made a giant chunk of this budget, which went straight to him.
People were joking about, because on the press tour, he was sort of saying, "Oh, this is my favorite of the movies that I've done."
Yeah.
And people were like, "Yeah, because it's probably the biggest paycheck you've gotten."
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not to disparage Jack Black, not saying he does things for the check, but hey.
I kind of felt like he did this one for the check.
Yeah, money's nice.
In our review, I disparaged his voice acting in that one a little bit.
Oh, sure.
I love the guy.
Uh-huh.
I think he's great. He's a great meme.
The king of video game movies, after all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tucker Imaginary, the other bear movie that came out this weekend, as we talked about in the reviews.
Which, this is the first movie comparing to the new forecast range that underperformed its projections, which was a range between 10 and 14 from the industry and opened to just under 10. Like that's not extremely out of the range. It's like $60 million less. But it did underperform. But also, this movie only cost $13 million, and now it's made almost $40 million. So it is profitable for Blumhouse.
They are just fine over there at Blumhouse.
And this is what Blumhouse does.
Yes.
Frankly, they make bad movies for a low budget, and enough people see them. Like, this is not a smash hit.
No.
I think they were hoping that this would be the next Megan or something.
It has been, it's been, 3 weeks since this movie came out, and it's forgotten already?
Oh, absolutely. It's gone. I mean, it was forgotten the day it came out.
Yeah. No one cared.
But it also was just maligned across the board. 25% of Rotten Tomatoes is really, really low.
Better than Fantasy Island, Jeff Wadlow's last Blumhouse film.
Yeah.
God, I saw that one. That one was a stinker.
Wasn't that one I was supposed to go to with you?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Or was that it was Truth or Dare, I think, maybe one of these 2020 movies. I was supposed to go with you, and I brought my backpack to the theater. Like, you can't come in, and so I had to walk back home from the theater because they wouldn't let me in because of my backpack.
And also now I bring my backpack into the movie.
Yeah, they don't give a shit anymore.
No, for whatever reason.
This was before the pandemic.
That's
and things were more lax.
Yeah.
They probably had more employees back then, frankly.
Yes. So this got delayed a little bit because of the writers and actors strikes, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that certainly didn't help or hurt it or whatever.
No, of course it didn't.
Yeah.
Because it's imaginary.
Yeah.
The biggest actors in this are not box office draws. People aren't looking for interviews with them.
Where was our Saw X style marketing campaign with Chauncey? You know.
I don't know, and frankly, I don't care. Frankly, I don't care. But I think this is also an interesting one for Blumhouse because clearly it wasn't up to the standards of what they usually put out, and I would agree with that. I would say this is one of their worst movies.
I would say so too.
But if you look on the second fact that I have, Universal has a first look deal with Blumhouse.
Of course,
they produce almost all of their films, or at least distribute them. Rather.
Yes.
But they didn't want to release Imaginary, so then Lionsgate was like, whatever.
Well, you know,
and hey. That's kind of what Lionsgate does. If you look at their lineup,
they pick up the scraps.
It's like, hey, what shit do you not want? We'll put it out.
Tucker, that happened with another film this month
right.
that I'm excited to talk about as well. But yeah, speaking of Jeff Wadlow, it's his highest Rotten Tomatoes score yet. He's on the up and up, folks.
Yes.
He's on the up and up.
Next time, it might even be a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes.
My God, can you imagine a 30%?
I wonder, though, if he'll be getting more Blumhouse work from this, because clearly they like working with him.
Yeah, I guess so.
And he is making them money.
Yes.
But he's also not really improving much. He's just kind of coasting.
I think ultimately they probably have their stable of directors that they'll add guys to.
Yeah.
Who each have a job to do.
Sure.
They're role players here. And Jeff Wadlow, he makes this kind of movie. Yeah.
Blumhouse D&D.
Yes. He makes this kind of movie.
He does.
Yeah.
Bad
movie, but they make money.
Yeah.
Because that's what Blumhouse, that's the bottom line for them.
The line, that's the bottom line for all studios. That's the point of making a movie. But I don't want to talk about Chauncey anymore.
No, let's move on.
He's not my friend.
No.
Next up, Love Lies Bleeding, A24's only film. I guess they also put out Problemista, but we're not talking about that here.
Well, I have that down at the bottom. This is their second of 3 releases for this spring.
Okay.
Yeah. Problemista and then Civil War.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Hasn't come out yet.
Yes.
But yeah, so we saw Saint Maud a couple years ago from director Rose Glass.
Right.
I thought it was pretty good.
It's pretty solid. It's solid.
But it didn't stick in my mind much. But Love Lies Bleeding is, I think, a massive step forward for Rose Glass, and also just a much bigger success. Of course, that Saint Maud was like barely put out into theaters.
Yeah, I mean that was a pandemic release.
Yeah.
But yeah, this film has obviously made multiple times more. It is much better. Well, actually, not much better received because we're comparing a 92 to a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes, but higher IMDb score. This film was a limited release, so no cinema score for this one. But this is getting a lot of chatter online. People are digging on Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah, but it's not really turning into a financial success story.
Well,
a budget of $10 million. It hasn't made that back yet. It's out of theaters at this point, or at least barely in theaters, certainly not enough to put enough money into, I think, even cross its budget. I don't think it's going to. But I think that this being a critical success, and that's usually what A24 is going for.
Yes.
I think we will see Rose Glass return to A24.
Of course.
Probably with something a little bit more like box office friendly or something.
A24 is not really concerned with that though. But they might be going forward now, dipping their toe into the blockbuster sphere. But they said that they're still going to maintain their indie roots. Sort of bring up and produce films from these smaller filmmakers.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that they're going to be like, Rose Glass, you got to make something that people will go to see.
Yeah. But I think that her as a director, her name is growing, and this. Especially with a much bigger name like Kristen Stewart attached to it.
And now a big name like Katie O'Brien, who off the back of this was cast in the new Mission Impossible movie.
That's coming out this summer.
Yeah. Wait,
we've got to wait. Hold
on. But yeah, I mean, this is a great launching pad for a number of people involved.
Now, one final thing though.
Yeah.
If this gets a substantial international release, because at only $500,000 internationally, it seems like it hasn't been released in other countries really. It could, I could see it maybe grabbing another $5 million or something like that, which would obviously be a big jump for this movie. So I wasn't really noticing how low the international gross was, but I think that's possible. I don't know exactly, but it seems a little bit weird that this movie was not distributed internationally.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not really sure what those crazy folks over at A24 are cooking up, but hey, well, we shall see. And ultimately, like, this film got a lot of positive buzz about the quality of it, about the stars in it. So I think that ultimately that's what A24 is looking for. They're sort of the opposite of Blumhouse, actually.
Yeah.
Blumhouse is like, hey, it can be as bad as you want as long as it makes money.
Yeah.
And A24 is kind of like, we're just looking for great movies to make.
Yeah.
And if they make money or they don't, we don't really mind.
But let's go to something that did make money.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Didn't make money. I thought it did. I thought it would.
Yeah.
At a budget of $19 million, Arthur the King predicted to make 10 to 15, which would have been good for that budget.
Yeah.
It severely missed that by almost 3 million, or no, over 3 million lower than projections, and has just kind of capped out at like,
It's an eh.
Yeah.
Chuck, this is the one that in doing research I found a very interesting article about. Great. I think this is a Deadline article by someone who I can only assume from the writing of this has a blood vendetta against this film. It's essentially an expose on the film, being like, "Hey, this film didn't make any money. Let's look at why it didn't make any money." Yeah, it was like far more in-depth reporting than I've seen on basically any other film, especially of this size. Yeah, being like, okay, so this film was actually produced apparently for $40 million. But that's before pre-sale. So of course, I'm fine with sticking with the 19 there because every other film that we talk about, we're talking about what their budget is post pre-sales, which is a confusing thing to say. After pre-sales, meaning that's how much the 40 million is how much the film was made for, and they sort of leverage that against selling it to other studios to put out.
Sure. So and then the money that was paid for this movie knocked off a chunk of that budget. So it's like. That's just lying.
It's Hollywood accounting.
It's horse shit.
Yeah.
But that's even sadder.
Yes. So yeah, it was produced for 40, and then the film is the article rather is a lot of talking about talking to industry experts being like, this didn't really fit into any particular category of like. It's like a dog movie, but also it's a lot about like racing and sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's mostly a racing movie.
Mark Wahlberg isn't necessarily the star he once was. He's been diluting his star power with a lot of this not very good straight to streaming stuff of late.
A lot of Netflix stuff, a lot of Prime stuff.
Yeah, this is
with the director Simon Kellen Jones. Yeah. The Family Plan was a movie with that director and Mark Wahlberg just a few months ago that I think was reasonably successful on Prime, I believe, where it came out.
No, that was an Apple TV Plus, according to Apple TV Plus, their most watched film ever on the platform, most watched original film.
This is the Apple's red notice. It's Apple's red notice.
It's absolutely Apple's red notice. But Tucker, talking about Mark Wahlberg and his star power, this is his first fresh Rotten Tomato score of a film that he's led since 2018.
Holy shit! With what?
Instant Family.
I don't even know what that is. Is it a streaming movie?
No, that was in theaters.
2018.
Yeah, that was.
I've never even heard of Instant Family.
It's like him and Rose Byrne adopt some kids, and they're like,
I'm sure they do.
They adopt some kids, and the kids are like, we don't like you, adopted parents, and then they have to learn how to be parents.
Aww.
Yeah, but people like that one. And it's the only Mark Wahlberg thing that people have liked in the last 6 years. Yeah,
that's rough.
It's really rough for him.
But then again, Lionsgate lost a lot of money on this one, because if we're saying made for 40 million, horseshitted down to 19, that is 21. This movie didn't make its budget back, so you're not even gaining money in that regard.
You gotta get your marketing budget in there as well, which according to this article again was around 20.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So really, in reality, $60 million from Lionsgate in the hole, and they've made 22 of that back.
Exactly.
So they are $40 million in the hole.
Yeah, this is something that Universal, who initially had this film, sold it off to Lionsgate. Lionsgate. Universal saw the ripples in the water here. They're like, this is not that good. This doesn't really fit into any particular demographic. There's not a good slot to really release this in this March. So Lionsgate, here you go.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say is I predict that this is going to be really big on streaming and on PVOD.
Yeah.
Because this kind of movie geared towards a different market. With a big name like Mark Wahlberg, that you can put his face and the dog's face onto the Alexa and onto the banner at the top of your iTunes or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know which streaming services will go to. But I'm sure it'll chart. I'm sure it'll be in the top 10 on iTunes for a couple weeks. So I don't think this movie is completely dead until I think it'll find its audience over time.
And audiences like it. I mean,
they do. Yeah,
the people who see
Cinema Score,
70%, 7.0 on IMDb. The people who went to go see it enjoyed it. But not many people went to go see it. That's the issue there. So I don't know. Try a little bit better. Try a little bit harder, Mark, next time. Okay. Ghostbusters. Well, here's the thing.
He tried. He was like, he's all in on that movie. He's going through the woods and shit. Like, this is not like a phoning it in movie.
Mark Wahlberg would have been doing that anyway, though.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right, Ghostbusters.
Stay prayed up.
Stay prayed up. God bless you. Ghostbusters.
Empire.
With the total so far of about $115 million, on a budget of 100, this isn't looking great for Sony.
It's not, but the thing is, like, $100 million budget for a franchise blockbuster with a reasonable amount of CGI. That's a good budget.
Solidly budgeted.
So I do not blame Sony for quote unquote over budgeting this. I think this is a perfectly fine budget for this movie. It's just that people just don't seem to care. And like they could not necessarily have predicted that because they, to their credit, and this is a bad movie. I didn't like it. And I'm kind of glad that it's not making money. But to their credit, it's not like they didn't try to make it like a 4-quadrant appeal.
That's
bringing
true.
it,
they really
playing
did.
on nostalgia, bringing back the old stars, bigger scale, returning to New York. They tried.
Yes.
But people just aren't grabbing onto Frozen Empire.
They are not. And in fact, it seems as though, and this is very interesting, I loved seeing this, that this film made $45 million opening weekend. Ghostbusters Afterlife made $44 million opening weekend. And Ghostbusters 2016 made $46 million opening weekend.
That's a tight cluster.
It is a tight cluster. It almost seems to me as though there is a contingent of the population that will go to see Ghostbusters opening weekend.
If it has that in the title.
And they are not growing. They are not expanding that audience, which is, Tucker, correct me if I'm wrong, something that studios mostly want to do.
Yes, especially for a franchise.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
So, look, if they continue this, I think that there's a chance that if they are somehow able to make a $50 million more horror movie, small scale, maybe the kids are in like a haunted house against ghosts or something, make that for a lot cheaper. If you make it for $50 million and it makes 115, that's great. I don't know, that's not great, but it's fine. Like that's profitable, which this one will not be.
It was not. But you know, I think the bottom line is that ultimately people really don't care. The general public en masse does not care about Ghostbusters.
Correct, yes.
I think that is evident from, Ghostbusters Afterlife made $200 million. Ghostbusters 2016 did fine business as well, but there is diminishing returns here, especially as the cinematic or the movie-going landscape behaviors have changed.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Frozen Empire is, again, at face value, looking at Ghostbusters 2016, Afterlife, and Frozen Empire, you would expect Frozen Empire to be the one that is bringing most people out. 2016, very controversial. Of
course.
I would say caused significant damage to the brand in terms of general population.
Especially amongst the misogynistic fan base of Ghostbusters.
Absolutely. Afterlife comes at a weird time, lacking the core cast and a lot of the iconography. It's in a different place.
Yeah, but also has the legacy sequel sort of shine to it.
And then Frozen Empire, like, again, I in my mind, it's like, oh, this is the one that would be the biggest, and it's just not. I think it's probably actually going to be the lowest grossing of the three. So I think that damaged by the reboot, damaged by Afterlife releasing into when theaters had not fully reopened yet, and then
Dune.
Frozen Empire,
people are still seeing Dune.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But Tanner,
yes,
$114 million Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Ghostbusters? Now a $1 billion franchise.
That's true. This just pushed it over. I think literally like as of yesterday or when the totals come in this weekend, it will be a $1 billion franchise. So I'm just getting ahead of it there. I was crunching the numbers. I was like, it'll be there this weekend. It'll be there this weekend, especially globally.
Yeah, but that's also kind of horseshit because most of that is the first movie.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
Which was actually a massive cultural success.
It was, indeed.
And financial success.
I wish that someone had made a video about why that was the case. We do have a video of on that, or Tucker does.
Yes.
But anyway, in any case, very well researched and edited video. So go check that one out. And yeah, there are more international releases of this film yet to come, especially in markets like Japan, France, Brazil, more of that. So, but this franchise isn't huge internationally. This is a largely domestic franchise.
Especially that first movie, which I think was barely released overseas.
63% of Afterlife's gross was in North American markets.
Sure.
So there you go. So it's not exactly going to be like, oh, the international markets are going to save this one.
Yeah.
Especially as more and more films are being released as we get into the summer movie season.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this one's not going to stick around.
True.
Though, April is so light with
April is pretty
IP
light.
things.
Yeah.
That it could stick around for the next couple weeks, with a little bit of money each month, or each week. So I think that this April coming after this March is the best possible scenario for this movie to have longer legs, but it's still not going to have very long legs.
No, I don't think so. All right. Immaculate, Tucker.
Yeah.
Another spooky little ghost movie.
Neon.
Neon indeed. So, this is Neon's biggest opening ever, with $5.3 million, which seems paltry, but, you have to remember, Neon is kind of where A24 was if we rewind 5 or 6 years.
I would say so, yeah.
They are burgeoning, they are breaking out, they are getting in the public consciousness, but they're still working their way up there.
Yeah.
So it's very cool to see that we have another indie studio that is sort of not only putting budget and money into making sure people are going to go see their things, but that is being sort of reciprocated in the moviegoers.
Yeah, and this also is coming off the heels of one of their other biggest openings that did not pay out for them, which was Ferrari last December, which lost a ton of money.
Yes.
Because Michael Mann just spent a shitload of money on that movie, and no one cared.
We put it out in.
I liked Ferrari.
Ferrari's a great film. But you put it out in the holiday season.
Yeah,
you put it out around Christmas. A lot of movies are out around then. People are still going to see Wonka.
Michael Mann's kind of in his Ridley Scott bag.
He is. He is very much in this Ridley Scott bag. But hey, Heat 2, baby. Heat 2. All right. This film premiered at South by Southwest and, of course, benefited greatly from having Sydney Sweeney in a starring, obviously the starring role here, coming off of what became a holiday season success with Anyone But You.
Yeah, yeah. And this is, again, a lot like Timothée Chalamet, having that perfect cadence of when this movie released. Anyone But You just leaving theaters a couple weeks ago. Sydney Sweeney back in theaters, back in the internet public consciousness with advertising.
Yeah.
One thing that
She hosted SNL as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have to praise Neon and the team behind Immaculate. They did some of the best viral marketing that I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's paid off for them. Only
has.
a $9 million budget. It's made 17. It'll probably stick around for a little bit longer.
Absolutely it will.
But this is just a good thing for the resume of Sydney Sweeney, who also believe produced this movie.
Yeah,
she's a very big champion of getting it made.
Yeah, she auditioned for this project back when she was 16 years old. 10 years ago, she auditioned for this, and has now worked her way up to be a producer on this film. This is her second collaboration with director Michael Mohan, who directed her in The Voyeurs, however you want to say it. That went straight to Prime 2 years ago. But
depending on how freaky you are, how you
that's
pronounce
true.
it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think this is, as you said, Tucker, a very good film on her resume. A well-liked film, 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. C Cinema Score.
It's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie, but also I don't know, that ending you feel maybe the ending probably threw people off.
I would say so.
Yeah.
It boosted my score.
It boosted my score as well.
But the average person's like, hey, wait, she killed a baby with a rock.
Yeah, I've seen a couple videos, which I presume are also being done for The First Omen, which is a very similar film, of people being like, hey, I went to go see Immaculate, and I was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
Suck it up, I would say.
Suck up.
Yeah. But good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff all
good
around
movie.
for Immaculate.
We liked it.
Yeah.
Making money. Sydney Sweeney's star power is growing. We'll see if she continues to produce projects that she's in. I know that at the moment she's in the process of picking out another rom-com script with Glenn Powell.
That's right.
Which, thank God.
Thank God.
Oh my God, yes.
Also worth noting that this film opened, in that upper range of what it was tracking to do. So
You know what, Tanner?
What's that?
She did not leave public consciousness because Anyone But You was leaving theaters. Because Madame Web was in theaters.
That's
and we
true.
forgot about that.
We did forget about that.
Yes.
That's kind of the reason she was on SNL, but also because she was promoting this movie. It's just an
interesting time to be this woman.
Well, Tucker, it's a very interesting time to be Sydney Sweeney, isn't
Yes.
it? All right. Moving on to the final weekend of the month, the final big surprise, kind of the month. That was Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
I didn't even look at the projections because you did this. I think you added that one. The projections were 43 to 56 million, which is basically what the predictions were for Frozen Empire.
Yeah.
And then this movie made $80 million domestically its opening weekend.
Let's talk about this, because we had been sort of anecdotally saying this in our personal lives. But let's get this on record here. It's fucking crazy to me how many like normal people not going to the movie theaters every week are going to see Godzilla Kong and also talking about it. I've seen so many meme videos on TikTok about this.
Oh my god. The Scar King yelling at Kong punching him in the face.
Yes.
Best part of that movie?
Yes.
Best thing to come out of that movie.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of what's the baby monkey's name?
Suko.
A lot of Suko memes.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I'm sort of dumbfounded by this.
Yeah.
That this is like a big hit with general audiences and has been growing in popularity with general audiences. This is, the critic score has been a little wavy here. This is the second lowest critic score.
And if you're looking at the real critics,
Us.
you and me,
yeah.
You look down at that bottom corner, worst score we gave this month, I believe.
Yeah, by far. But this is the critic score has been wavy. This is the second lowest behind Godzilla King of the Monsters. But if you look at the audience score for these movies, it's been steadily ticking up since Godzilla 2014.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But it is the second highest opening for the MonsterVerse since that first Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Which I think opened to almost $100 million.
Yeah.
Which I would say that and Kong Skull Island, ironically, the first two movies in the series, are still the ones that are looked back on most fondly.
I would agree.
They're certainly the ones with the most vision behind them.
I would agree.
But Adam Wingard,
$218 million is
Adam Wingard
crazy.
is going to get either a conclusion to his Versus trilogy, or he's going to get another big IP movie.
Yeah.
He's now in the consciousness of studio executives who are like, hey, this guy can turn out a big movie, and frankly, for a reasonable budget. Wait, hold on. Is this budget accurate? I thought that it had a lower budget than Godzilla vs. Kong.
Let me double check that.
Okay.
Godzilla X Kong.
What else can I look at here? Oh yeah. This had the IMAX screens as well, and IMAX has been, especially this year, increasingly something that is impacting opening weekends. Of course, if you're going to a PLF, premium large format screen, you're paying more for that ticket, and if the film is advertised as being that being a big part of its identity,
must see in IMAX, biggest screen possible.
Then that really contributes to it opening big. And our final fact here at the bottom is 11% of its opening weekend came from IMAX. Though that is less than Dune Part 2, that's still a substantial amount.
I mean, Dune Part 2 was like a fucking historically big IMAX thing.
Yeah.
By the way, Tucker, Godzilla X Kong, $135 for a budget. One budget.
That's why I was...
and I was also looking at... Yes, so I wanted to look at this. Adam Wingard, I was like, I remember him having some projects in development. So these are the 4 films that Adam Wingard is directing or is attached to direct that are in development.
Let's go with that second one.
Yeah. Supposed to direct, in development, not in production, worth noting.
Yes.
A Face-Off remake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
An Event Horizon remake.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, I'd watch that.
A action sci-fi thriller called Hardcore.
Sure.
And Thundercats.
Oh, that's not happening.
No. I mean, they've been...
I actually think that basically none of those are going to happen.
I don't think so either.
These really feel like a studio got rights to the IP and we're like, let's just say we're making this, and if it comes out, good.
Yeah.
But like, studios just love having projects that they say they're going to do so that no one else can do them.
Yes.
And Event Horizon and Thundercats, these aren't things that are going to like blow the box office out. I mean, Adam Wingard is someone that can make a financially successful, audience-pleasing movie, and so maybe he could do it with those. But you don't listen to Thundercats and Event Horizon, you're like, oh yeah,
that's
the
one.
They're just like, look, Thundercats is an IP. Event Horizon isn't actually really an IP. It's just a movie.
It's just a movie that exists.
And so let's say we're making
Same
this
with Face-Off.
so that no one else can make it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'd expect a third Godzilla Kong film to happen before any of those.
Absolutely, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, Adam Wingard seems to like making these. He has basically dove head on into his monster verse.
Yeah.
So good on him, I suppose.
Well, good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Too.
But I also do want to commend Godzilla X Kong, GXK as it's known.
Yeah.
Against GVK, which is Godzilla vs. Kong,
of course,
for having lower budget. When you watch this movie, you don't feel like, oh, this is a lower budget than the previous movies. But no, it's actually, it cost solidly less than Godzilla vs. Kong and significantly less than King of the Monsters. So good.
Yes.
Last year we were talking about so many movies that just had an extra $100 million tacked on top. It's I didn't like Godzilla x Kong.
No.
But it's making money on a smaller budget than it could have been made for. We wouldn't have been if this costs $175, $180 million, we'd be like, what the heck? That's so much.
Yeah.
No, we're going the opposite. We're like, oh, 135, that's reasonable.
Really, it's really good.
And the movie doesn't look cheap.
No, it doesn't. And of course,
cheap.
we are recording this the first weekend of April, so this is looking to repeat quite nicely at that number one spot.
And what I was saying about Frozen Empire, about April giving it space to have legs, that's what Godzilla X Kong is going to do. I think Dune is going to continue to hold now that we know it's not going to
streaming. Yeah.
But Godzilla X Kong is going to really be the thing that benefits from very little competition in the coming weeks.
I think so, especially with all the memes and such going on around online.
But Tanner, this was a real month. Last month, not a real month.
I hate being reminded of this.
Last time on Back Lot Banter, we looked at February. That's how months work.
That's true. That's how the year works.
And last month's movies were Argyle, Lisa Frankenstein, Madam Web, Bob Marley, and Drive Away Dolls.
So a month ago, we're in week 9, and Argyle's been on streaming for weeks and weeks at this point.
Argyle feels like a year ago.
I know, it feels like so long.
Madam Web feels like, holy shit.
Anyway, Argyle topped out its worldwide box office at $95 million.
Didn't even crack 100.
Did not crack 100.
And again, remember, cost 200.
That's true. Lisa Frankenstein couldn't even crack 10.
Oh, that's so much. Oh my god, Madam Web barely.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then, hey,
Bob Marley.
Godspeed to Bob. Yeah. I actually watched that movie. I didn't like it very much.
No, it's not very good.
Again, we have to give credit where credit is due. Even when movies are bad, if people are going to the theaters to see them, that is better than people not going to theaters to see them.
I tend to agree. That one topped out at 175.
So much more than everything else.
Yeah, it's way more. And then Drive Away Dolls
didn't hit
6.3.
Nope, didn't hit at all.
Didn't quite hit. That one's on VOD as well. So there you go. That's where we are with
February.
The February releases.
And then, just showing what our thoughts are on this batch of movies. Very, very, very mixed. I mean, perfectly balanced as all things should be. Actually. Look.
Two greens, two yellows,
great movies,
2 reds.
2 mid movies, and 2 bad movies.
I agree. And yeah, it's those mid and bad ones that are really dragging our average down for this month.
Yeah.
When you look at last March, which was a fucking banner month.
Wait, hold on. I just realized Godzilla X Kong's not on here.
Oops.
I probably would have rather had that than... I guess Love Live Bleeding or something.
Yeah.
But that would have dragged it down even further.
It would have.
Frankly.
It would have. I mean, this is one of the...
3 bad movies.
3 bad movies.
Wow, that would have drawn out a lot more because that's the lowest score we gave.
Yeah.
2.7?
Yeah. But I mean, remember last March?
Last March was great.
We had Creed 3 and John Wick 4. Oh my god. And then Scream 6, which I didn't enjoy very much, but lots of people did.
But it's a better movie than a lot of these.
It's way better than a lot of those, actually.
And then Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
And we gotta have your stinker in there.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods is the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire of this year.
It is. It's exactly the same score.
And then I like having it in the middle, just going back all the way to 2022. March's movies of that year.
Also very good.
No, that's a solid setup of movies. But funny that there's only 3 major releases that month.
Yeah.
And The Batman, great movie.
Yep.
Everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Lost City, forgotten the time already.
Yeah.
just gone. But X
being continually revived this year.
Maxine,
baby.
by the time you see this, Maxine trailer will be out. Go watch it. And go see it as well.
Go see it. All right, let's talk about the headlines this month. Lots of big news this month. Lots of big news.
A lot happened.
So, starting from the very top, we got a date for the sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Now, I want to be clear.
Okay.
It is not necessarily a sequel to the Super Mario Bros. movie. The direct wording from Universal, Nintendo, and Illumination is a new film being produced in the Super Mario Brothers movie universe, in the world of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Didn't they? And
now that doesn't necessarily mean it won't be a sequel.
Yeah,
but it could also be a Luigi-focused movie or a Donkey Kong-focused movie.
Yeah, because those are the two that they said are in development: a Luigi and a Donkey Kong.
I don't know, but I'm just saying. Yeah. It might be Super Mario Bros. 2. It probably is. But I'm just putting it out there. Mm-hmm. I read the word for word. Yes. This is from the horse's mouth. The horse being Chris Meldandri.
Tucker, this is good. I like the pedantism here. Yes. All right, Tucker. For stuff that's probably not coming out this year, but it certainly could, especially with things like a complete unknown could come out this year to really capitalize on Chalamet's star power here.
I think I think that you give this like an October slot, November slot.
Yeah.
Give it sort of an awardsy push. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably gonna happen.
Okay. But yes, filming has started on a number of projects: SNL 1975, A Complete Unknown, and Ari Aster's next film, Eddington. SNL 1975, I think, is going to be next year because that'll line up with the 50th year anniversary of SNL. So
and Eddington seems like a bigger project, it being a Western, and Ari Aster's not particularly quick with his movies. So.
No. But yeah, I mean that's stuff that has been going on. Stuff that's not going on includes the Batman Part 2, which by all accounts has been hitting some writing bumps.
Really?
Yeah. From what I've heard and what rumors have been swirling, it's that Matt Reeves has not exactly been on top of writing this thing. Which, to be fair, he had to be a producer and a creative consult on the Penguin show that's coming out this year, so it's a lot, I'm sure. But yeah, that was delayed to not next October, the October after next October.
Delayed a full year.
October 2026. More dates announced though as well.
Now hold on, I just want to double check. Do you know when Brave and the Bold is supposed to come out?
No.
Isn't that 2026 as well?
Maybe.
I thought it was.
I think so.
Because Superman is 2025.
It was never given a date, but if you kind of think about it,
if you want to have a movie in your universe a year, and a Batman movie is going to be the next one, but that has to be. They can't do 2 Batman movies in 1 year.
They might do 2 Batman movies in 1 year. They very well could.
Well, a bad decision. Cast yet. So.
Yeah. Paul Thomas Anderson's new film has been dated for August 8th of 2025, next summer, in IMAX.
Yes, that's my birthday movie.
True. There's a lot of speculation online about what's this movie about? Is it an adaptation of this book but set contemporarily? Very interesting coming from PTA, and very cool to see it being put in IMAX.
Oh, and actually, that's a massive trend for this month. A lot of movies have been dated and said, this is going to be an IMAX release. And actually, a big chunk of them are not IP stuff. Are not classically big spectacle things. The Ewan McGregor and
and Anne Hathaway
Flowervale Street. Dinosaur something movie.
That's coming. That's coming next year, and that'll be
not
IMAX.
an IP. Yeah. And this, and then we have coming up. We have Civil War and Challengers.
Yep.
IMAX is being proliferated, and it's becoming a bigger part of the cinematic landscape.
I think it's studios looking at how can we benefit from people really only treating movie going as a eventized thing.
Yeah, and so even if we were making Paul Thomas Anderson, who's never been a massive box office draw, of course he's a popular filmmaker and a very quality filmmaker, but if we are able to say, look, this filmmaker with big names, this is going to be an event, even if I don't know. I can't say that movie will be quote unquote event.
It's got Leonardo DiCaprio in it,
But it's a good marketing push. Yeah. I'm very happy that this is something that is happening.
Yes. Moving on. Neve Campbell has been confirmed to be returning for Scream 7, which will be directed by series writer Kevin Williamson.
This actually happens with a lot of horror series.
Yeah.
When the director doesn't want to do it anymore, they just find someone on the creative team and bring them up to do it. One example that jumps to mind is Tom Savini, who was the effects creator for the Child's Play movies.
Oh, sure.
He then directed a couple of them later down the line. But yeah, they just do this. Look, let's find someone involved in it. Also, Tanner, another one. Kevin Grudert.
Yes,
Saw.
Yes. I mean, it's just people who have been there for
editor for the Saw movies.
And
then he became director of 10 and 11.
Director and editor still took that job.
Godspeed, Kevin.
It's just people who have been there for every step of the way for this decades long franchise. But of course, this film is in a little bit of hot water after the firing of Melissa Barrera and the departure of Jenna Ortega, sort of just standing in solidarity with Melissa.
And by the way, there's no way the other surviving teens from Stream 6 return. If their friends are not coming back, the bigger draws.
This will be following Nev Campbell. This will be following Sydney Prescott. I would assume, because in Scream 6 it was said she went off, she's in hiding or whatever. She'll be compromised in some fashion. And there's a moonshot prediction from your friend
for a movie that's barely been written and won't exist for another year.
Exactly. Scream being the original Scream being one of my all-time favorite movies. I think they will get desperate enough that Matthew Lillard will be back for this one.
That's definitely possible.
I think it's definitely true.
I mean, you were hoping for it to happen in 6.
I was.
For really no reason, you just wanted it.
I just like Matthew Lillard, and I really like him in Scream. Okay, Tucker. Margot Robbie is producing a Sims movie, The Sims movie. This is
a big deal. It's a big deal. Video game movies, big thing. Sims, flexible enough to where this does not matter.
It can be anything.
This is much like Barbie in that you just write a story with actually, I don't fucking know. I have no idea.
Yeah. This is being directed.
It's just a movie about people.
Written and directed by Kate Herron, who I think most notably did the first season of Loki.
Yes. Which was great. And Lucky Chat Productions, that's Margot Robbie's production company. Mm-hmm. Having her behind this, I think they'll make this a big deal.
Also worth noting that The Sims is amongst the biggest video game franchises ever.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, the problem is, it doesn't really have iconography.
Of course.
And it doesn't really have...
It's got the green diamond.
It's got the green diamond. But that... Well, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this is just going to be a general sort of comedy, buddy, whatever movie.
I don't know. I think
that just is called The Sims.
Yeah. I don't know. With Margot Robbie on it there, though, I think the inclination is for people to think it's gonna be Barbie-esque. In that it'll be good. It'll be existential.
Good. Yeah. We're being controlled by someone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it will probably be that.
Honestly, I'm very, very in for that. Yeah. I think this could be big for them. It's a very interesting IP to pull from, and again, we're testing the waters for video game stuff. The Sims series has sold so many goddamn units. Yeah. And it's also a big casual thing.
It is
much like Mario.
Yeah.
This is not like Borderlands where it speaks only to the hardcore gamer audience. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just play Sims even if they don't play a lot of other video games. So I think this is a perfect.
I think it's a good one to do. It's a good one to do. And honestly, for the video game movie sort of trend, it's one of the better ones you could pull out in terms of mass market appeal.
Kate Herron, Loki season 1, something behind the scenes, controlling things, good production design on Loki season 1. Good. Hey, I'm excited for this.
I think so too. The Pooniverse has been announced.
It has.
The Twisted Childhood Cinematic Universe with numerous installments like Pinocchio Unstrung, Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and of course, Pooniverse Assembled, or Pooniverse Monsters Assembled, or whatever.
Sure.
They're all coming out before the end of 2025.
Yeah. We don't know when the next one is coming out.
No.
We saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which is a lot better than the first. We saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, which is a lot better than Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yeah. And they showed us a little bit of tease for Bambi the Reckoning, I believe. That trailer actually dropped online a couple days ago.
It did.
So I would say Bambi the Reckoning probably...
That's the next one.
Before the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And then, I guess the other 3 will come out next year. Yeah. Who the hell knows?
I'd assume like a February, maybe like a... I don't know. The Pooniverse will definitely be like in October.
Sure. Yeah.
It'll definitely be like in October.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them before that, I guess.
Yeah.
Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, will be premiering at the Cannes Film Festival this year.
Yeah.
One of the very few blockbusters that have been announced to be premiering there, which is typically a mainstay of the Cannes Film Festival. These big Hollywood blockbusters that will be premiering over the summer will show up there first, get the approval of the hardcore, snooty European critics.
Yeah.
And they
or won't get it.
Yeah, which is I think why we're only seeing a very limited number being announced.
Last year was pretty dire, especially for Disney, where
Elemental and Indiana Jones premiered there, got very poor reviews, and it ultimately, I feel, hurt them in the long run.
I think it hurt both of them, absolutely. Though Elemental was able to come back from that.
It was.
What could have happened if it didn't have a bad Rotten Tomatoes score?
Yeah.
Middling? No, I guess it wasn't fresh.
It was rotten.
Yeah,
it was rotten.
When the movie came out.
if you're an audience member and you're looking up like, oh, the new Pixar movie's coming out, look it up. Oh, he's like, oh, it's got a 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not. I don't know if I want to go see that.
Yeah.
And then you hear
from probably not going to come back to this. Disney.
No, probably not.
When is the next time a Disney movie is going to show off at Cannes?
Yeah.
Thunderbolts.
But yeah, I mean, George Miller makes sense. He's respected in those circles. Yeah. So I think Furious will be well received there, but I could be wrong. So. We mentioned this earlier. Timothée Chalamet has signed a first look deal to produce and star films with Warner Brothers. Basically, any project that he is attached to going forward, the Warner Brothers will get to look at that verse and be like, we want to make this or we don't want to make this.
Yeah. And I think also it means that he will be able to be more active in choosing the projects that he.
Well, he's a producer. Yeah, produce and star.
Yeah, but I mean, because he's such a big draw, I think he'll be able to be the creative lead of like saying this is what's going to happen, and they're gonna be like, you made us Wonka and Dune, do whatever the hell you want.
When Warner Brothers says, hey, Timothée Chalamet, basically you've made us $1.4 billion in the last 8 months, you can kind of do whatever you want. We also got some release dates for some upcoming award season films, such as Robert Zemeckis' Here is going to be a Thanksgiving release this month, or this year rather. Thanksgiving this month does not happen. A Real Pain, which was a Sundance film directed and starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. That'll be October of this year. A Different Man, an A24 Sebastian Stan film, will be launching in September. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be an awards player. September's a little early. And an A24 film, We Live in Time, has been confirmed to be coming out this year.
I don't even know what that is.
That is Florence Pugh, Andrew Garfield, sort of a rom-dram.
Oh, okay. I heard those names together, but I didn't associate with the name. Yeah, the title.
It's gonna be a rom-dram of sorts. So I'm sure this might be the past lives of this year. Sure. Let's say. But yeah.
Finally, The Matrix coming back.
The Matrix is coming back.
The Wachowskis.
No Wachowskis attached.
Not even one.
Not even
a single
last time Lana directed and wrote The Matrix Resurrections back in 2021. They are technically attached as executive producers,
of course they are,
because this is their series.
Of course.
But Drew Goddard is writing and directing this thing.
I don't know. I mean, I actually have not seen any Matrix movie past the first one. I think that's one of my biggest IP holes in terms of no familiarity. But I've actually heard a lot of people saying like, hey, Resurrections was actually awesome. And I know you're a fan of it.
I am.
But I've been hearing a lot of that recently, so I'll probably go back and give them a try.
Yeah. Certainly before this one comes out.
I mean, I'm not going to say that I think this is a great idea, because Resurrections, well, there seems to be like kind of a resurgence of, maybe that's what the next one can be called, Matrix Resurgence.
There is a contingent of online, this is important, online people who went to go see The Matrix Resurrections and really enjoyed it. That is not reflective of the general public.
No, that movie bombed massively.
Bombed and was not very well received en masse.
But I think that The Matrix is a big enough idea and cachet that I understand why they want to keep trying this. I don't know exactly how I fall in terms of having zero Wachowskis involved in the writing or directing of it. But it's going to happen, and I'm not going to put a big stink about it. I'm going to wait until the movie comes out and see if it does justice, if it's good.
I like Drew Goddard. You know, he directed and wrote Cabin in the Woods, which is very much in the sort of meta ideal, and people have been pointing out that a big theme that it was not exactly subtle in The Matrix Resurrections was that Warner Brothers, who they name drop in Resurrections, is like, hey, we want to make The Matrix, which in the universe is a video game instead of a movie. Sure. We're like, hey, we want to make this again, and Keanu Reeves' character is like, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Sure.
So Lana was very much tuned into like, they want to reboot this and mine this IP, and I'm going to make a movie about why that's bad.
Sure, and now another one.
And now they're doing it anyway.
But I also do want to just quickly go through some other things that weren't on here.
Sure.
Live action Teen Titans movie announced.
Yes.
Which will be written by the woman who will write the Supergirl movie.
Right.
Kei Kwan's action film With Love, which I believe also has Ariana DeBose in it.
Yes.
Got a release date for February of next year. Venom 3 is now titled Venom: The Last Dance.
It is.
They announced a new live-action Popeye adaptation. There's just studios attached to it. So this is very much in the vein of what we were talking about with Event Horizon and Thundercats. Like, who the hell knows if this is going to happen?
What's going on?
Announced.
Yeah.
A new Never-Ending Story adaptation it has been announced.
Yeah.
Another one. Who the hell knows if that's actually going to happen? Happy Gilmore 2 script is announced.
That's true. That should have been on here. Happy Gilmore 2 is massive. It's going to be a Netflix film, and I fucking went off on this when this was announced. Why wouldn't you put this in theaters? Happy Gilmore is like a surefire smash hit at the box office.
Maybe it is. When was the last time an Adam Sandler movie was in theaters and did well?
When was the last time that Adam Sandler movie was in theaters?
Would it have been Uncut Gems? But obviously that was an indie thing.
Yeah, that was much different.
But like, when was the last Adam Sandler theatrical comedy? I think that he's still a draw. I think that it's possible that it could be a hit, but I don't know if the taste has shifted so much to where people are like, I'll just wait for it to be on streaming.
I don't know. Hey, let me find out.
Pixels.
Pixels was the last one.
And Hotel Transylvania, but not all live action.
Yeah.
Pixels bombed.
Was that a box office bomb too?
It must have been.
Let's try. I'll find out.
Pixels. While you're going through that, more things. After The Hunt, Luca Guadagnino keeps announcing fucking movies. This one's going to have Julia Roberts, but with MGM.
Yep.
Ryan Gosling starts his own production company.
Oh,
so that's interesting. He's working with Apple. We'll see if that works out for him.
Okay.
Darren Aronofsky's next movie, Caught Stealing, starring Austin Butler, will be produced by Sony. Lionsgate and Amazon have announced A Simple Favor 2, directed by Paul Feig and starring again Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. I think that's going to be a straight-to-streaming thing. There's enough time. The movie hasn't been made yet. I think it could be something that Paul Feig champions to go into theaters, but also Paul Feig's been directing a lot of straight-to-streaming movies recently, so I don't know if he gives a shit. I'm sure he's being paid fine to do that.
By the by, Pixels cost about $100 million, made $244.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Tucker, let's wrap it up. April 2024 releases.
Weird month.
Well, we've seen Monkey Man and The First Omen, two good movies. Next week is going to be a big one for A24. We'll see how their experiment goes with Blockbuster Civil War.
IMAX Blockbuster
Civil War.
IMAX Blockster.
The IMAX Blockster. I'm losing it. All right. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead also comes out next week.
It's a fake
movie. April 19th sees the release of Abigail, which is a Melissa Barrera Universal monster movie, directed and written, I believe, by the Radio Silence team behind the last two Scream movies. We also get Guy Ritchie's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. He hasn't been...
Check your fucking watch. It's Guy Ritchie time again.
Yeah, but a movie that, by my count, has not been marketed, and Guy Ritchie has not had a great track record at the box office as of late. We also get a Spy Family Code White film, the first time that series has had a film in theaters.
I'll believe you.
But I'm like, is that going to be a big deal like these other anime films we've been seeing recently, or isn't it? It's unknown. And Jesse Eisenberg's Sasquatch Sunset about a family of big feet.
Absolutely, it's big feet.
It's also coming out, limited release, April 19th. And then end of the month, we see Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Faist in Challengers, Luca Guadagnino's tennis film, and a one for the faith-based crowd here, a biopic about a Christian music star called Unsung Hero.
Yeah.
So, Tucker.
And then our predictions for the highest grossing films of this month are, we both agree that Civil War and Abigail are the ones that appeal to the most people, that have had the most marketing significantly. But then I am still siding with the idea of marketing translating into people going to see movies. Challengers, I think, will be number 3. Not only is it... no, it's not getting... It is getting an IMAX.
It's going to be an IMAX.
It's going to be an IMAX. It's been advertised for months and months and months. And Zendaya is a bigger draw right now than ever, coming off of Dune 2, which she was very much featured in. So I'm surprised actually not to see this on your list.
I think I made my predictions here before I saw the IMAX thing, because my main thing with Challengers was looking at Guadagnino and MGM's recent track record, namely with Bones and All, which made $3 million opening weekend.
That sounds right.
And the Challengers isn't exactly like primed to be much different than that. It's getting an IMAX release, which is big, I will admit. But I'm also just trying to stick with, like, there's always been one in recent months that we didn't see coming. So I'm trying to expect the unexpected here. And, like, the recent output, what I think it's called Kingdom Productions, was oh god.
I don't know. I can't help you.
I can only imagine in 2018 made like $18 million opening weekend, and
oh sure.
Jesus Revolution last year made 15.
Okay.
And so that's why I got them here.
That's a good point.
So
no, this one, I mean, I don't know where they're advertising.
I don't know.
I have not. I think I saw the trailer for this once, which was before Arthur the King.
Yep.
I've not seen it.
Tucker, my numbers.
Here's the numbers.
Civil War, 22.
Okay. Ooh, so we're already starting low.
We're starting low. I'm starting low. Abigail, 14.
Okay.
Monkey Man, 12.
Oh, okay. Ooh, I think that's high for that movie, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. First Omen, 11. I think these are going to be very close.
I think that's accurate.
An Unsung Hero, I'm going to go 9.
Okay, so you're already undercutting whatever the hell that studio is.
Yeah, by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's as big. Doesn't have the word Jesus in the title.
Yeah.
Challengers, I'm going to go with 7. This is just more. Challenger 7 and Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will see. We'll come back. The thumb scale will return next month, if I remember.
Yeah.
But Tanner, March covered.
Yes.
Lots to talk about. And I'm very glad that we got a chance to.
Yeah.
Next month will be interesting because it'll be kind of returning us to like,
It'll be a more limited month.
Yeah.
It'll be a shorter episode.
But then, summer movie season, baby.
We're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it, baby. All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.